So, Rudy, the big story today, obviously, the Supreme Court decision that it will hear the challenge to Bill 21. I don't know if you happen to hear Melanie Joly weighing in just a few minutes ago, saying the federal government will be there, of course, as well. Seems a bit rich, but what do you think? What do you make of the ruling today?
But I mean, I think it's a very, very good news for the PQ, for the Parti Québécois, for Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, because now he will be able to do the media rounds and talk about it and say, look what's happening. The federal government, as Melanie Joly just said, and the government's position, it is to challenge also this bill, the Bill 21. So I think it's a good news for the PQ. I don't think it's a good news for the federal government. I don't think it's a good news for the Conservative Party of Canada, because also the Conservative Party of Canada doesn't want to talk about this because Pierre Poilievre, or in the past, have said that he's against the bill, but it's not clear if it was a Conservative government, if they would have the same position as the Trudeau government and also be part of the challenge. So it's also something that can have an impact for the PLQ, because Denis Coderre, who's a challenger in the leadership race, have said that he is for Bill 21, which is not the traditional position of the PLQ. So that can also be an issue during the race. So you can see that there's some winners and some losers, but that's not something that was on our radar. Bill 21, normally it was able to be reinforced by two courts in Quebec, but now the Supreme Court is going to hear it. I don't know when it's going to happen, the calendar, but that's going to be an ongoing issue, especially in a general election, and especially if that happens before and after an election at the provincial level.
So let me go back to what you said. This is interesting. I hadn't thought of that. So we heard from the Liberals. We have not heard, and someone is definitely going to ask Pierre Poilievre about this, kind of between, as you describe it, Rudy, puts him between a rock and a hard place here, doesn't it?
Yes, look, I used to be an advisor for Andrew Scheer in 2019 during the campaign, during the general election, and it was already a hot potato because the Quebec caucus, the Conservative Quebec caucus, was in support of Bill 21, but the National Caucus, all the MPs were against it, and the position was, we don't like this bill, but we're not going to challenge it, which was a difference between the Liberals, who said, we don't like this bill, but we are going to be part of a challenge if it reaches the Supreme Court. So I don't think that it's part of the game plan of the Conservative to really talk about it. Even the PQ, Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon on Twitter, or X, I must say now, challenged Pierre Poilievre to clarify his position. And for the moment, Pierre Poilievre hasn't responded on Twitter, despite the fact that they've had quite a bit of exchange earlier in the week on other issues. So normally he does respond to Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, but this time it's radio silence from the Conservative on that.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about, first of all, I should mention for people who don't understand fully, because this only happened this morning, this is not a ruling on Bill 21. This is simply the decision to listen to the various sides. So the Supreme Court will hear this.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's going to take, from what I understand, at least months, possibly longer, before there's ultimately a decision.
Yes, exactly. So this is only the Supreme Court saying, yes, we will hear the case, but again, twice in Quebec. And it's also a big question. It's about the notwithstanding clause, which is the Quebec government saying, yes, we know that it's against the charter, but we recognize the authority of the National Assembly to make our own law. And for them, the Bill 21 is for them. They have the authority, and they use that notwithstanding clause to kind of, in a way, save it from a challenge.
So let me shift to something we spent probably far too much time talking about today. That's Donald Trump, again, doubling down on Canada and tariffs and whatever else. And, you know, I heard the Prime Minister come out today and try to sound tough again. Is this the right approach, do you think, when challenged, saying that there'll be a robust response? And there will be a response, making no bones about the fact there will be.
Yeah, I think there's nothing new in terms of the position of the government. I mean, Mr. Trudeau today just again said that if there's something coming from the U.S. like tariffs, Canada will respond. But I mean, it was a very strong message from Donald Trump. And he wasn't only talking to the U.S., he was talking to the world. He was talking virtually to the World Economic Forum in Davos. And it was very strong in terms of, we don't need Canadian cars. We don't need Canadian oil. We don't need Canadian lumber products, which in fact, it is not true. And even if he wants to kind of stop and say, look, come and build everything in the U.S., which is the message that he sent to the business community, come and manufacture in the U.S., otherwise you'll pay tariffs. It cannot happen overnight, and that's the reality of it. When it comes to energy, when it comes to lumber, when it comes to manufacturing part, when it comes to critical minerals. So Mr. Trump is saying one thing, maybe that in a year or two, maybe they're going to have new factories, or maybe they're going to have some new investment, or even some new drilling, but it's not going to happen overnight.
Does that mean, are you suggesting, Rudy, we're worrying for nothing right now? We're a little too much worrying right now?
No, I just think that, again, it's a negotiating tactic that Mr. Trump is saying one thing, but when he's going to realize, and I mean, his people are going to tell him, look, we need at least Canadian oil for at least a year or two or something like that. That's the start of a negotiation. I think that he wants to renegotiate the overall relationship between Canada and the U.S. It's supposed to, we have to wait until 2026 for that. I think he's trying to bring it earlier.
Okay, let me talk a little bit about a story here locally, which I'm just seeing now. So we have the federal tourism minister, this is Soraya Martinez, thinking of perhaps running for mayor of Montreal, and all of a sudden Vincent Marissal's name is in here as well. What do you make of this?
Yeah, look, it's very interesting for Soraya Martinez because you can make a parallel with Pablo Rodriguez, who left the Trudeau government to go for the PLQ. Now you have another cabinet minister, a sitting cabinet minister, thinking of going maybe for mayor of Montreal. So it looks like, again, there's not a lot of future at the federal level for liberal politicians, and they're looking for a plan B. And also, I mean, Vincent Marissal from Québec Solidaire, who is an MNA, and now thinking of also, I think it will be interesting because Valérie Plante announced that she's not running again. Both, I mean, parties, when it comes to the party of Valérie Plante or whoever is the opposition, they don't have a candidate. So it will be very interesting to see, is Vincent Marissal kind of the successor of Valérie Plante? We know that he's on the very left side of the spectrum. We know that a lot of people are saying we need somebody who has more of an economic background to run for mayor. I mean, is it going to be Soraya Martinez? I don't know. She didn't have a lot of portfolio experience in terms of the economy or economic development. So it will be interesting to see if she decides to run, or if there's another, I would say, economic a person with an economic background who's thinking of running for mayor, because that's the reality right now. Who's going to challenge the party of Valérie Plante?
One last thing before I let you go. I should have brought this up before. So today or yesterday, we had Chrystia Freeland come out of basically nowhere saying, beyond just this idea of eliminating the consumer part of the carbon tax, that she would scrap the capital gains tax, which is the same thing, of course, she supported when she was finance minister. What do you make of that?
I mean, how many times is she going to make statements about, reversing her own policy or her measures that were in her own budget? I mean, I think that for the capital gain, I mean, we cannot continue like this. There's people who maybe sold some assets back in June because they thought that, the capital gain was going to go up. And all of a sudden you have the Liberal Party saying, oh, well, we're going to maybe reverse it. And the reality is that this bill hasn't passed. I mean, for the moment, the Revenue Canada is applying it, but it hasn't been voted. It hasn't passed in the House of Commons, and it's not going to pass because the House is prorogued. So, I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty, and, I mean, I think it's not good for Chrystia Freeland to all of a sudden reverse most of her past budget and saying, oh, yeah, all of a sudden now I'm going to change this policy because, I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty about it, and people are angry about the capital gain. You cannot just buy something for 10, 15, 20 years, keep it as an asset, and all of a sudden you change the rules saying, oh, you have to pay more taxes, or no, you shouldn't pay more taxes.
Fair enough. Rudy, I thank you. I appreciate it today.